I feel like my head. Hey, what is happening, wrestling fans? It's the True Bros Wrestling Show.
It's the True Bro, and no, it's not the True Bros.
We are True Bros, dude. True Bros through and through.
We are the Two Bros Wrestling Show, and we're here to talk an amazing wrestling pay-per-view. No, premium live event.
Premium PLE. There we go. There we go.
Your boy on last week's show said I was just tempted to go up to Cleveland because it was so close. I honestly didn't think I would. 2 days ago, I bit the bullet, bought a ticket, was there live. I drove up. I went to the show. I took an hour getting out of Cleveland Browns Stadium with 60,000 other crazies. And then I drove 5.5 hours home. So
you drove home last night. Oh my goodness. You are a madman.
All mistakes are, hopefully forgiven. We aim to put on a professional show here. So I'm like, man, I got to get back for the Two Bros Wrestling Show. I got in at 6 a.m. So let's see how this goes.
Wow.
It was quite an experience, man.
I did not realize you were not coming. You were not staying up there last night, and you were
where it was not planned. Yeah, where it was kind of last minute. I drove up for the day. My wife and I. She dropped me off to avoid like the $60 parking and all that good stuff, and then picked me up. And I had
what did she do for like 4 or 5 hours?
That's another podcast.
Oh my god. Dude, I have relatives in Cleveland. And I know.
Oh, man. I cannot wait for tonight's main event topic, fans. Obviously, it is one of our bigger premium live events to discuss. Being there in person, Doug watching on Peacock, we have it covered all the way around, including a little bit of show and tell. We got a little bit of visual accompaniment thanks to my being there. As you can see from my background, I'm still at SummerSlam. I'm still in the mode.
I didn't even realize that. That's nice. That is nice.
But despite getting to go to premium live events and having so much wrestling to discuss, there is also wrestling news that we must open with as always. And gosh, Doug, we have to start with the photo heard around the world. I guess you see a photo, but the implications of the photo. Shane McMahon, Tony Khan, they're hanging out. We've heard the rumors for months now that Shane was headed to AEW. We chalked it up to being, that seems far-fetched.
Right, yeah.
Especially at his age. Maybe, obviously, his last run in WWE as an in-ring performer didn't go so great either. So why would this happen? It seemed like, the realm of fantasy, internet fiction, and then this photo emerges of the two hanging out and, just a friendly get together. Were they talking business? Were they planning their House of the Dragon finale watch party? So many possibilities.
We do need to land on time tonight, by the way.
That's right. Who knows, man? Who knows what they were actually
so
discussing.
The weird thing is that is allegedly in a airport like meeting room, a random airport meeting room or something like that. Or I guess they're like, oh, hey, we're both millionaires, or I'm the son of actually, we're both sons of billionaires.
Yeah.
Can we have a meeting room for a little while just to hang out and talk? I mean, what happened there?
Well, that's the thing. What happened there is speculation, and all we could do is speculate as well. There is, I mean, the internet community, the wrestling community already has. There has been discussion that Shane McMahon has wanted his way back into WWE fold, and that this is perhaps his way of generating some leverage if they think he might be going to the competition. And what would be in it for Tony Khan? Well, Tony Khan doesn't seem to shy away from wanting just publicity of any sort. So, he wanting the photo out there.
Carney-like promoter, I mean, it should have been him running Carneyland, not Billy Corgan. Or William Patrick.
I know we're adding again to the speculation, but Doug, do you have any speculation as to what this is? Is it anything? Is it nothing? Is it intriguing? I mean, at the very least, it did get tongues wagging.
I think it is intriguing. I think, both of them are, at the end of the day, are businessmen. And if they think either one of them can gain an advantage or make a dollar off of something, however that comes out, if it's leverage for Shane, if it's publicity for Tony, it's out there, and we'll see what happens. I think anything beyond that is pure speculation, though. Yeah, I can't see Shane showing up on Wednesday night going, I just bought, Rampage or something.
I wouldn't put it out of the realm. I mean, my turn to speculate. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of like an appearance on AEW.
Sure.
Tony Khan would be all about having a McMahon on his airways. Right. Shane McMahon is all about, well, he's a McMahon, so he's all about attention, right? On himself. I don't see the possibility of a long-term working relationship, because what's the end game for either of these men? That's not where Shane really wants to be. It's, again, he's not an in-ring performer at this stage. I don't think Tony would want or need him backstage. So I guess we'll see, though.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to be backstage or in ring. What, last time he was in ring, he like pulled both quads or something insane like that, and Snoop Dogg had to come in and save the day, which is an odd statement in and of itself.
And then he, booked himself to be like, the like Super Cena or something, and then got fired by his dad, who then gets it. I told my wife it's pretty much like Secession, except on actual steroids. So
yes, it is, isn't it?
While we're on the topic of AEW still does not have an official TV rights deal locked down. As far as the exclusive negotiating window, though, for AEW and their current partners in Warner Brothers Discovery, that window is now closed, meaning that theoretically, Khan could conceivably shop AEW's TV rights around. I don't think that's what he wants to do. He's very adamant about Warner Brothers Discovery being good partners. The discussions are going well, but you may not want to, close off all your options. At the very least, if he started talking to others, it might heat things up with Warner Brothers Discovery. They might not lowball him. It will be interesting to see where this goes. Obviously, TV rights going into the next year are a big, big issue for AEW, and how much money they're going to get out of it. We'll continue to follow that story here. Let's do one more, because we're going to be talking all kinds of WWE. Let's do one more AEW related story, and it's also a biggie. I'm not sure what it is about All In season, but here we are again at that time of year, once again talking about disciplinary actions being taken due to backstage behavior. This year, it's the Good Doctor, Britt Baker, who reportedly has been suspended due to an incident involving MJF and the recently hired backstage announcer, Alicia Atout. Reportedly, Baker was suspended for several weeks and fined by the disciplinary committee after an incident on the July 17th Dynamite in the women's locker room that night. Atout heard others, and Baker as at the helm of it, talking about MJF being MJF's actual real life significant other. Atout naturally told MJF this. This apparently has led to a series of altercations between MJF and Britt Baker, and HR got involved. I think it's interesting, though, Doug, from everything that at least has been reported, that it's Baker who gets the suspension and the fine.
Yes, a $10,000 fine.
Yeah, and not MJF or Atout. So does that mean that she is the one solely to blame, or that MJF is not touchable? It's a bad look for everyone involved, especially, Atout just getting hired there. It's not a good way to start off relations in the dressing room. But if you do overhear a conversation derogatory about your significant other, I can understand why you would obviously let your significant other know that. There was, as part of these reports, it was said that there was some sympathy for Baker's position in the backstage area. And all I can think when I hear that, especially since neither MJF or Atout were disciplined, it just means sympathy is that no one backstage likes MJF and therefore are taking Britt's side. Do you have a take on this one?
I do, because I've caught a little bit of extra news about this weekend. And so it sounds like it's stemmed, or at least from what I'm hearing from my sources, which are, of course, internet, wrestling community sources out there. But, it sounds like, Baker's biggest issue was that MJF and Will Ospreay had an entire hour of TV time. and I guess she thought that could be utilized elsewhere. And then I don't know if Atut said something to her, but about talking about it about MJF, but she told her to get out of her locker room. So it's like the doctor came back and established her dominance in the locker room allegedly. But I've also heard that Osprey, who caught wind
got
of it,
involved. Yeah,
got involved, talked to Baker. They had a civil conversation, and things were cool by the end of that. MJF left, after smashing, punching a wall right before that, hour long match with Osprey, though. Allegedly, and again, allegedly, everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, the majority of staff who folks reached out to about this said, "Oh yeah, this was at the very least a mutual thing, not a one-sided thing. But we just want to be over it because we thought we were over this stuff already." So very interesting, and Tony's still struggling to keep his house in order, but now
that's it. That's where I was going with this. That's the non-alleged part of this. Whatever the alleged is or is not, it's still Tony Khan. Get your house in order, man. Why does this keep happening in your locker room? You don't hear about this to this. It's in every locker room, of course, but you don't hear about this to the same extent in WWE, a much bigger company, as you do in AEW, which goes to speak about leadership as well as backstage satisfaction. You didn't hear about much of this kind of stuff in AEW either when they were the hot young promotion instead of the mature promotion that has issues as will occur when you're a maturing business. But moving on,
we'll see.
Nick, we'll see. Some announcer news coming out of last night's PLE. During the pre-show, Michael Cole introduced the WWE Universe to new announcer Joe Tessitore, and as we and other outlets have previously reported, Tessitore, a well-known sportscaster, ESPN and other outlets, was coming over to WWE, originally announced by WWE to be taking over the job of Corey Graves as play-by-play guy on SmackDown. Well, apparently those plans have changed because yesterday when he was introduced, it was revealed that Joe would be the new voice of Raw and Michael Cole was going back to SmackDown. No word on why the change, but apparently there has been a change.
Interesting.
Speaking of Cole, he was the subject of an excellent in-depth profile in The Ringer this past week. I highly suggest you read it. Those of you watching, if you have not, several things of note came out of that, was revealed. One is that Cole had signed a long-term contract with WWE, meaning he is going to be kept as the voice of the company for some time to come. Also in the article, Cole reflects on the differences between calling matches now as opposed to having Vince in your earpiece. Cole admitted that in the day, Vince had said inappropriate things to him. Not that that's a shock to anyone who knows of McMahon's reputation of what he would say when he was on air. But he also said that in the first 24 years of his WWE career, he described himself as an actor playing the role of
Michael Cole,
announcer Michael Cole, whereas the last 3 years, fans have been seeing Shawn Michael Coldhard. And the article also revealed that he's seen Springsteen more than 100 times and has "She's the One" tattooed on his arm. So in any other non-SummerSlam week, this wouldn't be my performance of the week, just based on that alone.
Does that beat you? I know you don't have a Springsteen
tattoo,
but
it beats me for sure.
Okay.
But, did you read the piece just out of curiosity?
I've read the highlights of it, like everything you just hit on, because I think it's great that he talks about how also how he would go back and call Vince every time on it, and give pushback when he could. Of course, he also acknowledged that he's not a rebel and that, he was a man there, trying to make a very good living for his family, which he had done. But at the end of the day, he's not a rebel, but he's so happy to have his newfound freedom.
It's a wonderful piece. I mean, it's amazing to see how he went from one of the most vilified men in wrestling for decades. And he had said it. I think that the fans saw me as Vince's puppet, and I probably was. But I was doing my job for the boss, and now I get to be me, and fans are seeing the real me, and fans have responded to it. I will tell you, from being able to be fairly close to Michael Cole last night, he wasn't phoning it in. It's mentioned in that article, and I saw it firsthand. Like, I remember the days of seeing clips of Cole, and he's like leaned back in his chair and he's calling it just like he's, long 8-hour day at work, and he's at the end of it counting the clock. And last night he was up, he was standing up, he was pounding on the table. Like, even when he wasn't on camera, you could see he was putting himself into the situation. And when a person has that much fun at their job, it comes across the fans. We noticed that.
Well, like Cole said, he loves wrestling.
Yeah,
so, and he's getting to work in wrestling again.
And it's fantastic. He's doing a bang up job.
Yep.
One more story here, actually two, I'd say 1.5. So in general, movie fans rejected Ben Affleck. You'll know where I'm going here. When he took over the on-screen role of Batman. So we'll have to see what fans think of him as the on-screen Hulk Hogan. That's right. Have you heard this one?
I saw something the other day about Affleck, up for a major WWE role, but I didn't know it was Hulk? I didn't know it was Hogan because it was Bradley Cooper that was going to do Vince McMahon, and I thought Thor, which Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth, was going to do the Hulk Hogan biopic.
So that ended up sort of dead in the water, apparently, and was sort of considered abandoned, and has been picked up again by a different production company. So even Hogan himself had talked about things falling through. Well, it's Affleck and Matt Damon's production company that reportedly has shown interest in it, and both Affleck and Damon are reported to also be considering taking roles in the film, with Affleck starring as the Hulkster himself, brother. I don't know, man. I'm not sure I can see that one.
Does that mean Matt Damon's going to be Macho Man? That is a movie I want to see.
For the context of what this movie is, it's not this particular treatment and script is not a biopic per se on Hogan. It is concentrating on Hogan's sex tape scandal and his lawsuit with Gawker. So I believe Damon is someone on the Gawker side. Is the role he's playing. So
that's no fun.
Doug says Hulk Hogan's sex tape is no fun. I think that you are right about that, Doug.
No fun.
And the last thing is not a full news story because I'm going to get to talk more about it in our main event. Sorry for the word jumble. 5:30 in the morning. We're going to talk about it in our review of SummerSlam, but there is injury news coming out of last night's main event, but we will get to that now. It's main event time.
All right.
There's no bell. There's no bell for the main event.
There is tonight. Look at that.
But what we do have are some visuals to talk about. So because I attended, it's a little bit different of a review tonight, in that I wasn't studiously taking notes as I normally do. Instead, I was at the event taking pictures. So, Doug, if you will indulge me for a second before we get into the match by match that we're going to do, talk about how our predictions turned out. I'd like to just talk a little bit about the experience for those fans who haven't had the opportunity of going to SummerSlam.
Absolutely. But before you dive into that, is that Sean X-Pac Waltman?
Well, that's where I was going, because I have been lucky enough, through the years to go to countless house shows back to the territory days. We've seen TV tapings from TNA and Ring of Honor and Raw, SmackDown. I even, I've attended WWE pay-per-views, but as Cody Rhodes mentioned last night in the press conference, WWE is in their stadium era now. And I had never gone to a stadium wrestling show, much less one of consequence to the size of a SummerSlam. Because it was so close, I went last minute, found a ticket that I was willing to pay for. Previously, these tickets were outrageously expensive when I first looked at the same general area. And of course, as it gets closer to the event, I guess they don't want empty seats. I got them from Ticketmaster. It wasn't a seller that was, trying to cut his losses or anything. And I ended up decently close, and I'll show that later. But when I arrived, obviously with the bigger events, they have the pregame and things going on. So because of that, I stuck around outside the stadium for a little bit. And yeah, got to see X-Pac and got it up close with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee and others. By the time I arrived, this whole area was this shot was towards the end before I headed into the stadium, which was about as good a view as I could get of the pre-show. But before that, I managed to get at a spot that, even though I couldn't see the pre-show well, I was right there where they were doing the staging. So in other words, they were bringing wrestlers in from the stadium in golf carts, getting them ready and mic'd up for their on-air appearance. And because of that, here I am looking like a goof, man. But
and all that kid walked behind. Photo last night. I just noticed this kid behind you guys. He's like, "Come on, can I just get a hand slap?" I love this.
Seth freaking Rollins and his Sunday best, of course. And Doug, I texted you that you were being replaced on the Two Bros Wrestling Show, and I can't help but notice that you decided to try to dress up tonight. So I know I was actually kidding.
I've got to step up my game. Well, initially I thought, because the photo before this was McAfee, not you hanging out with him, but you just catching a candid of him. And I'm like, okay, I'm cool with being replaced by McAfee, but I mean, come on, man. I'm not even going to argue with Seth freaking Rollins.
Well, and then of course I met this guy, and now from here on out, we're going to entrust the Two Bros franchise in the hands of Big E and Seth Rollins. So they'll be taking over starting with next week's show.
I believe we're leaving it in good hands. Although I was going to suggest that Rollins, start a new referee corps and in WWE and just run it with like that uniform that he had, and just that kind of attitude with all the refs. But he's got bigger fish to fry, like the Two Bros Wrestling Show now.
Well, I will say that I did spend a few minutes I had with Seth. Imparting upon him the lessons I learned in my one day of wrestling training, just because I knew if I could go over the rules with him, that it would help him later on in the night when he was, refereeing one of the main events.
Wow. Wow. So everything you learned in wrestling school, Seth Rollins used last night.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.
Came into play. Big E and Seth Rollins, thank you both. They could not have been nicer. Could not have, not just to me, but to all the fans there. Like, they were really pressing the flesh and doing fan service. So highly recommend, if you get an opportunity to go to one of these bigger events, you get there early and take advantage of these opportunities. You never know who you'll run into or meet. And this was my seat. This was the vantage point from where I was. True story. I haven't had an opportunity to relate this to Doug yet, but I thought to myself, like, I'm not going to be one of those people that are paying a couple $1,000s to get really close to ringside. So I had no intention of being on the floor, because I thought if you're too far back on the floor, you don't see anything. Anyway, I want to be elevated. And when I bought my ticket, I thought I was elevated. And then when I was getting ready to text it to Doug, I looked at him like, floor seat, that's not right. I go back and check my order. And sure enough, the scale, again, so massive in a stadium. When you're buying off a ticket map, I thought I'd scrolled far enough back from the ring. I thought I was in the lower bowl, and I'm like, I'm on the floor. It could not have been better. I was 19 rows back on the hard side. What I know was $800 seats just a few days before. I paid a fraction of that. And this is from the broadcast. There I am. If you look there, this is Braun Breaker's match. We'll get to that in a minute. But there in the far right, there circled in white, that's me in the blue AJ Styles t-shirt. And I could see myself. Obviously you'd have to know to look for me, but I'm thinking, to be able to get to a big major event like SummerSlam on the hard camera side for
Liam, why don't you come check that out?
It was, I have to say, my view was good. I never would have thought that for an affordable price, you could end up on the floor, 19 rows back, ringside, hard camera for one of the major PLEs. Could not say enough about the experience based on where I was situated, and I highly recommend it for anyone who has that opportunity. I am making my plans now for Royal Rumble in January, which is in Indianapolis, even closer than Cleveland is to us. And then, of course, WrestleMania in a few years. That's a given now that I'm going to take advantage, and I'm going to take this guy, the other bro, with me, and
let's do it.
We'll make him take advantage of that too. All that said, that is my preamble to the experience part of it. Let's talk the pay-per-view itself, Doug. Obviously, when I am there in person, anything you see in person, there's a little bit of a shine of I'm here. That excitement of it elevates it, and you don't know if it's coming across the same, but it felt in the building like we all were watching something kind of special unfold last night. So I would say that, at least from my perspective, and I'm curious of yours, this is a must-see event.
So I will absolutely say this was a must-see event. This, top to bottom, although I disagree with one of the booking decisions, but, top to bottom, this was a excellent. I don't think I've ever seen in the Paul Levesque era or years and years before a premium live event of this caliber. Just the whole feel of everything.
I was texting other wrestling friends, or I was checking out other sites, looking at their reviews and things. And as I sat there, I'm thinking to myself, am I just that happy to be here, or am I really witness of something special? And I'm so happy I bought that ticket, because I could tell. I think everyone in that building could tell there's something special going on here. I would say, and at least my opinion before we get into spoiler territory, I would say of the 7 matches, at least 5, if not 6 of them, you can maybe even argue 7 of them, but at least 5 or 6 of them met or exceeded expectations. These were all, for the most part, a majority of these matches were main event quality matches put on by the men and women of WWE last night. I mean, let's talk about it. We have, again, before spoilers, soap opera drama, multiple title changes, literal and figurative changing of the guards in several instances, not one but 2 factions imploding, not one but 2 chants for not one but 2 different dogs. I mean, this event had it all.
Let's see what you did there.
It's true.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Let's do this, man. Let's do this.
I want to just, while Doug and I discuss, show a couple of the photos I took again in place of the notes I had. We're going to talk a little bit about each match, our predictions. Doug, we did pretty good. I don't know if Triple H is watching us, or we just love Triple H so much that we're all in sync here, but we got 6 or 7 right.
We did really good. Just a quick side note here. So I'm not sure if you've seen the actual broadcast, but the referees had this weird little earpiece thing last night with a camera in it. It looked like a little AirPod, but there was a tiny little camera sticking out of it too. So we got some referee cam stuff last night. Only thinking that because this was the first ref who they showed with the referee cam in his ear.
What did you think about that addition? Because I have only seen a couple of the matches thus far on the actual broadcast itself. I'm all about trying new things. As a viewer, how does this new technology sit with you?
I like it. I mean, I'm an early embracer on so much. So, if it's technology, I will dive in head first with my, eyes closed anyway and try it out. Yeah, it's very cool, isn't it, Scott? It's amazing. But yeah, I thought it was okay. I don't have any complaints about it. It's different, and I liked it.
I will say that I noticed that they had something in, you're not privy to the broadcast while you're sitting there. I could see why are the earpieces larger than normal? Something else about the setup, I will say, before we get talking about this first match, they started off with the women's contest, is that while, yes, they announced this was the most successful SummerSlam, the largest attended SummerSlam, almost 60,000. It was like 57,000 and some. It was not an entirely full bowl. And there were times in the broadcast, from what I've seen already, just from the first couple of matches, depending on where they were shooting the wrestlers, you can see that at least on the hard camera side, behind the hard camera in the upper bowl, that was completely tarped off. Now, part of the reason for that was they were using that area to set off the fireworks and other pyrotechnics and things. Still an absolutely incredibly full house, but not necessarily as many people as they could have jammed in there. Yeah, I think that there was some mixed reactions to that, Scott. From what I've been hearing, is that some folks thought it was an irritation and didn't provide much. But I'm with Doug. I kind of like trying something new, and you don't have. It also legitimizes it to be somewhat like other sports. Other sports do this. They put, baseball sometimes will have a camera on a base or on an umpire. And does it necessarily provide a better image than what they were? No, it usually does not. But does it provide something different? And just a change of pace? Definitely does. This first match, Doug, we got Rhea Ripley defending her title against Little Liv Morgan. Oh, little Liv Morgan.
Oh,
The story of this match,
Mm.
man, was as it should be. The bigger opponent taking it to the smaller one who was working from underneath, and Liv Morgan knowing that her best chance was to run, to be opportunistic, to strike and hide and dart, which is really what happened, and then exploit the real life injury that we all know has kept Rhea Ripley away, which this is her first match back. I thought she looked good. She still looked nice and strong, but they played that shoulder injury up. I really liked it when I first thought when she hit that post in person, it did look like it could have perhaps been a legit injury. I don't know what you thought, Doug, watching on Peacock, but I thought at first that perhaps it had popped out. You could tell later on that it was obviously a work.
Right, because I was just presuming it was a work from from that spot, and just kind of I was waiting for Dom to actually pop it back in for her or something like that. But
well,
mommy didn't need Dirty Dom.
Mommy did not need Dirty Dom. She popped it in herself using the announce desk, and then which was kind of a cool. I mean, that looked pretty cool. I have to say that was pretty slick.
And the visual, because they show that like a desk cam for the announce desk too. So when she does that, all the announcers reacting to that too is very cool.
I thought that they did a great job here. They gave it an epic length, and it was a good opener because it went a good 30 or so minutes of, and a lot of that was storytelling. So they didn't necessarily have to do a lot for it to mean a lot, which is really a story for a lot of the matches we're going to talk about tonight, in that it was as much story as it was in ring action, which is something that WWE tends to do better than just about anyone, especially right now in the Triple H era. This one had that in spades because it was Rhea's. There's no legitimate way of thinking that a Liv Morgan could possibly beat Rhea. But in our prediction show, Doug, you and I both hoped that they would go a different direction with this. And that's exactly what they did, that Liv needed this win. And, of course, she got it thanks to that no good, like I did hear Michael Cole's call on that. Dom.
Yep.
I'm not sure why both these incredible women are so enamored with fighting over dirty Dominic Mysterio, but it's kind of funny. But we saw it coming. They played it up really well. There was a lot of plausible deniability of like, mommy, you can't use the chair because if you use the chair, you can't win the title, which makes 100% sense. And then, of course, making sure that the chair was in place for Liv Morgan to hit that second oblivion that finally took Rhea out. So Liv does retain. And then the follow-up, Doug, and it's arguable that this is the spot of the whole match, was after the match. Because I will say in person, the crowd, though we all saw it coming, popped huge when Liv Morgan and was lifted off the ground by Dominic Mysterio and got that kiss.
When Mommy and Dirty Dom come out, they were just overselling the coupleness of their relationship. It's like, oh, it's definitely going down tonight. They're going overboard to say, no, we're cool, everything's good with us.
But it's not good, man. It is not good at all.
So let me ask you this. Does Dom get that heat live? Is that legit heat?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And
60,000 people booing Dom and then cheering for him.
It was absolutely fantastic. And I don't know what you think, but I was thinking about it today as I watched. This was one of the few matches I do want to see how the presentation on TV differs from what it felt in the arena. This is one of the few matches I have actually seen on the Peacock stream. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, man, I see where this is maybe going. Mm-hmm. This is your real dad. This is Eddie and China.
Yes.
Like, I think that this relationship is about to break down into some intergender matches. And of course, Rhea's going to beat the crap out of that boy.
Yes, she is.
And it's going to be, and the heel heat he will generate out of it is this is going to be some fun television.
Absolutely.
And Liv, who should be commended for the work she's doing as an undersized heel, is going to be able to move on to something else because Rhea's now going to maybe be preoccupied with Dom. And yes, she'll be involved in the storyline. Maybe there is, at some point Rhea's going to want her title back, but I think she's going to want Dom first.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll allow Liv to, build a resume with some other opponents, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
First match delivered in my mind, Doug.
Yeah.
Big time. This next match that we got a shot of here, this was obviously your Intercontinental Champion, Sami Zayn, defending against the young up-and-comer Braun Breaker. They did not waste a minute of this, and if you would have blinked, you would have missed it because it was a little shorter, I think, than anyone expected. But part of that, I don't know. I don't know what you think, but for me, this was the match I kind of thought we would get at Money in the Bank, where the monster that is Braun Breaker would be almost up and squashing Sami Zayn. This was kind of that squash.
I like that they saved it for a bigger stage. I mean, I think, Money in the Bank is a big deal, but it's not SummerSlam, and SummerSlam's not WrestleMania. But I mean, I think this is that kickoff to the Braun Breaker era. I've said it for years that, call this kid a Steiner and get him to the main roster as soon as we can. Well, they ain't calling him a Steiner, but at least we have him on the main roster, and now he has a belt.
And you can definitely make the argument that they're showing that he learns. Money in the Bank, okay, Sammy, the crafty veteran, I took for granted that my size, speed, youth, advantage, I was just going to run over him, and he got me. I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm not going to waste any time. So the fact that it went 6 minutes, it's going to keep it from being a 5-star classic in anyone's mind. As far as storytelling goes, it's really good storytelling. Like, I learned, and this time I took it to you, and it shows the faith WWE can have in a Sami Zayn, as well as just the different gears that Sami Zayn has. You can believe Sami Zayn is undersized and good enough to end the historic Intercontinental title reign of Gunther at WrestleMania, and he makes it believable, and then turn around at the next biggie of SummerSlam and lose in a squash match and be used in both of those things believably. Not everyone has that kind of character, flexibility, and rapport with the audience that they would be trusted to do both of those things, and we as fans buy it.
Absolutely. Sammy is amazing. Sammy's one of my favorites, and I just have to say, I don't know if you've seen this, but I think it was on X. I saw this today. The Steiners, Rick and Scott in the box reacting to Braun's win. It's great. Love that.
This was a literal passing of the torch, because I do believe that not only is it Braun Breaker's time, it might be time for Sammy's role in the company to be more of what this was, and that's getting the younger talent over and using his skills there. And then, even though it wasn't the best pick I got, but that Frankensteiner, I still got it, and that was in person as much of a thing of beauty as it is on TV. It is impressive what that man does with a Frankensteiner. New Intercontinental Champion, and a probably one of the matches that maybe some would say was one of the underperformers, but I'd say it probably met expectations and was right for the length of the show. Otherwise, you go 5 hours if everything was epic.
Right. It did everything it was supposed to do, which was get Braun over in front of as many people as possible and pass the torch. It was exactly what it needed to be. Just like the first match was. It was exactly what it needed to be.
And this is what it was. The new Intercontinental Champion right there. Then we get this guy. Cleveland's own. Coming out, and how good of a heel. Let's again, devil his due here. How good of a heel do you have to be to come out in your hometown, in the hometown team colors, and still not a person in that place wanted to cheer him? Like, there was no one around me that were not hollering things I cannot repeat on this show at the hometown hero. No one in Cleveland wanted to see this man.
This guy is, I don't know. He's something else because he has no business being as athletic or as good at this job as he is to be a part timer. And then, outside of here, if he seems not to be the best human being in the world, and I'll just leave it at that. So I can totally see, folks in his hometown, not really falling in line with him. But I cannot deny this man's skill. This kid, I think I was talking about Taker. Taker said, if he'd actually just apply himself and, do this full time, he would be, a Hall of Famer. And I totally agree with that because some of the things he did in this match.
Let's talk about the spot of the match, maybe with the spot of the night, in some people's opinion. That springboard move that he did to the outside looked amazing live. I have not seen it yet on Peacock, but I know that was one of the, even as much hate as he had, that popped the crowd into this is awesome because it was athletic as all get out.
It popped me on my couch. I came up off of my couch with that move. Because it looked spectacular. And again, no business being as athletic as he is. And
I will say this was pre-match, this shot, and this was the table spot that when I watched on, again, I haven't seen the whole match yet. I saw the pre-match on Peacock. But this is the neckbreaker into the table that did not break. And that looked like pretty tough for both of these men, and possibility of derailing the match before it even got started. But that obviously did not happen. Thank goodness. They put on a great back and forth contest. I love the springboard elbow that where LA Knight leaps from the middle rope to the top rope and hits that elbow drop. It looked fantastic. And new champion, man.
There we go.
Two title changes in a row. I think that, oh gosh, man, LA Knight, Eli Drake, like you can, Max Dupree. I mean, when you think about what this man has gone through, 21 years to get to the WWE's main roster and finally get a singles title, and to do it in a stadium in front of 60,000 at one of the major, I don't know. I got the feels last night.
Right.
You had the dichotomy of here's the 26-year-old Braun Breaker being christened as, here you go, you're the next big thing. And then you have a lifer like this who at one point in time might have thought like he's going to be a near miss that just doesn't get the opportunity. And he gets that same coronation in the very next match, despite being in his 40s. It was pretty cool. It was just really cool to witness. And I don't know, you referenced it about not being a great human being. Do you think that part of the PR disaster that maybe a Logan Paul might bring help necessitate this change, or is it just simply LA Knight's time?
I think it certainly doesn't hurt, especially with Paul in the news recently with the Olympics and everything. So, but I think even before that, it was LA Knight's time. Because Paul is
time too. Because he's part-time. I mean, he really is. He had like 2 defenses of that title, and they were great. And this was great. This match was great. At the time, I thought this had a good chance of being the match of the night, and you could make an argument that it was. But it definitely was LA Knight's time. Now, I guess it'll, see if Logan Paul goes away for a while. Maybe he goes down to the police station and actually reports his, prime truck is stolen. And
I don't know. Did he get it back? I mean, it's just a broken window now, right?
Well, at least it's been vandalized. Well, it was stolen and then vandalized. So maybe, maybe LA Knight will have to relinquish the U.S. title just because of, jail time that he'll now have to do for committing crimes. Which brings us to the next match, Doug.
Speaking of crimes,
I got to say, we maybe this is the one match we didn't get right. So this is the Bayley defending her title against Nia Jax. I don't know if it is maybe our admitted bias that you and I have against Nia Jax, but I think that bias maybe clouded us a bit in this. Now that I thought about it, is one that we probably should have also seen coming and maybe just didn't want to see coming. Because Nia Jax has been, since she has returned, been put over strong as a big threat, a heel. now that she has the Tiffy partnership with the Money in the Bank, the stories they could tell there with the princess, like right under your nose, like we probably should have predicted this one otherwise. Because now that I think about it, like, yeah, logically, I see where they're going with this. And I will give the devil her due again. This was on the high end of what I expect from Nia Jax. It is not going to outshine any of the other matches on this card at all.
Not at all.
But if she's going to play the part of Andre, they're booking her like Andre. Logically, I can see the play here. I really can.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're right about that. Still like the outcome of this, and just the old Mark in me, and the old Mark that didn't want to see Nia keep that title for too long, was just waiting for Tiffy to whack her with that Money in the Bank case when she's celebrating her win. Just hit her in the face with it, and then just pin her real quick.
And there were people like hollering for that right next to me that were wanting that. The big man, small man dynamic in this one, where Nia was just overpowering. And then there was that spot where Bayley walks out of the turnbuckle with Nia on her shoulders.
Much like this. Except the roles are reversed. Yeah.
And because of the size difference, it was a sight to behold live. That was a legit show of strength and balance and everything else.
It looked amazing.
It didn't go the Huggers way.
Nope.
3 title changes in a row. This is the moment I think you were referring to about, like, this is when the guys next to me were like thinking that Tiffy was going to smack her upside the head at that moment. But they're going to tease that out. There are stories to be told out of this, and it will definitely be something throughout the entire fall that people are going to be waiting for, and will come eventually, and we'll all pop when it does.
Absolutely.
I don't know what this means for Bayley, though. I'm not sure where she goes after this.
I don't know.
That one's a little more interesting. And interesting was this next match. And this was a 2-man match, but it was a 3-man dance through and through. And this was one of those, just like we were saying early with the Dominic Mysterio added element. This is one where there were stories being told outside of the action that was happening between the 2 men. And because of that, the little things they did even meant more just because of the dynamic and the story they have told for such a long time. This is Punk's first WWE singles contest in 10.5 years. And because of the injury, the first time in the ring solo for 9-10 months, something along those lines. I thought that he acquitted himself well, considering that layoff. Not a ton of ring rust. They did not bother with headlocks or things like that. This was not a wrestling match, but these men hate each other so much they shouldn't be having a wrestling match.
Agreed.
They were hitting each other, and they did not look like they were pulling very much.
Yes. And this was, we had 6 title matches, and basically like a blood feud, at SummerSlam.
This was the blood feud.
And this was everything it needed to be, just like really even the Bayley Nia, everything it needed to be. But everything just fell into place all night. And this, I could not have been happier with the way this started, the way this was in the middle, the way it ended. This was just another piece of perfection in the night.
This was storytelling at its finest.
Yes.
And the most heat I have ever felt live at a wrestling event. The hatred for Drew McIntyre. The guy next to me wanted Drew to lose because Drew had yelled something at him 5 years ago at a house show and this guy is still, unfortunately, yet unavenged as shenanigans occurred. And Seth Rollins was great in his role. I hate both men equally. I want to call it right down the middle because of it. I loved him sitting back doing the Shawn Michaels thing on the turnbuckle, just laughing to himself as these men were destroying each other because I hate them both. I want them to hurt.
Right,
But unfortunately, despite the way it looks here, CM Punk, it looked like he was in a pretty good spot to deliver, and then he sees the bracelet. And he
So
hits the elbow, but unfortunately, that darn bracelet ends
I
up
was
on Seth
wondering.
wrist.
I was wondering how the bracelet translated in, live, especially in a stadium like that. I mean, I know there's the big screens and everything for it to zoom on in on, but I wondered if how well it translated. So clearly,
Yeah. And of course, I was ringside. I was lucky that I actually was not. And if everyone stood up, I would have to, and something was happening on the mat, like a pinfall, I would avert my eyes to the screen. I will
Okay.
say, if you heard anything happening I can't remember if it was this match or the following contest. I think it was actually the following contest. So maybe I'll get to that when we get to it. But there was, well, I'll get to it now. There was one point, if you heard some reactions that didn't seem to be related to what was happening in the ring, one of the giant screens on either side of the football stadium had gone out. So there were a whole bunch of people that were sitting at top who I'm sure you can't see a thing from up there without watching the screen. Lost sight of what was happening in the ring. They were not happy about it until the screens came back on, and that's what they were reacting to. With this match, even the little nuances of the bracelet ended up costing CM Punk, but you and I called this one correctly, and for the very reasons that I think WWE went with it, and that is Drew cannot keep being shown up by CM Punk and be taken legitimately. Eventually, Drew has to get the upper hand, and in this instance, it was CM Punk actually taking his eye off the ball. Like I think there's going to be some maybe controversy as far as how fans feel about the ending here. That Punk
not
would
this
allow
fan.
something like the bracelet to actually get in the way. There were Larry chants around me when the bracelets got involved. I loved it. Was it ridiculous, that part of it? Maybe a little bit for a grown man to worry so much about his friendship bracelet or whatever. But I still thought it was hilarious. I loved it. And maybe because I'm like the only one who was up popping because Drew McIntyre won. There were a lot of deflated people there. I will say, when you're live, there's no doubt about it, man. The wrestling world at large has completely forgiven CM Punk for any misdeeds of the past. That dude is over. He's just over. People were not happy to see Drew win. I was not one of those people. I was very happy to see Drew win.
I was very happy to see this come together the way it did. But Punk had enough outs for this. There's the low blow kick, the whole story about Punk defeats himself, not necessarily Drew McIntyre. So much there. To
do we get a chapter 3 in this, you think, or is this now CM Punk is going to hold a grudge against Seth Rollins, and those two men have?
No, we have to have a chapter 3 because Drew left with his friendship bracelet. He took it off Punk and walked out with it. So
it is. That's true. He still has it. But for today, anyway, we have the right man in possession of bragging rights for the time being. Which takes us to this match.
Man. This match, I don't know. This match just I love how we got to throw back to the very first match for just a second here, and the in clubhouse reaction to the end of that match, and and our champion here so mad, so aggravated about Dom, and he takes that energy into this match, and that energy and that aggression. This was,
and I love the dynamic that we had here. This is the I think right when he was going for his version of a Falcon Arrow, but as you can see here, actually, this is a good shot to show the size difference. It's unusual for Gunther to not be the larger man.
Yes.
And so it added a whole different aspect to a Gunther match, where Gunther is normally, whether it's been Sammy or Chad Gable or any number of opponents during that Intercontinental run, like it is Gunther overwhelming with his size and carving them up. Here you had a larger man who was very athletic, doing his jiu-jitsu kind of moves and stuff, his MMA style, while Gunther was doing his ground and pound style. These men hit each other hard. I'm 19 rows back without the benefit of a broadcast, and maybe they had the mic under a ring so you could hear the hits on the mat, but the hits on the chest I could still hear. They were both bleeding and battered in this one by the end of it.
Well, that's you're talking about Punk and McIntyre coming out and it looking like they were not really pulling punches. This looked like a legit shoot at times. It
Yes,
translated that way on TV, and I'm sure live because these guys just went hard.
I cannot wait to watch it on the broadcast to see how it feels. But seeing Gunther, this is what we predicted. There are some people who have not been so happy with Damian Priest's reign. I don't think that that's necessarily fair. It's part of what you get when you do the Money in the Bank thing, is that some people are going to go, well, he didn't really win it. But I think Damian Priest comes out of this match with Gunther looking stronger and more legit than he did holding the championship. That's where these championships, we have to remember, are props. On SummerSlam, against the best worker in the company, you not only held your own, you are now, because of the implosion of Judgment Day, poised to be a much bigger star than you were holding a champion where you were not even the most popular person in your faction. This is good for Damian Priest.
And that's just it. This was, just like with what happened with Rhea in the first match, there's some parallel storytelling here because we're breaking off to the leaders of Judgment Day. I think Rhea is leader, and then there's Priest, who's also like a co-captain or whatever of Judgment Day. But now Judgment Day needs to dissolve or at least regroup into some other kind of faction without Rhea and without Damian Priest, while these two go on to be top baby faces on Raw now.
And again, go their separate ways because their stars will shine brighter now apart from each other, which is why I do think that even in losing, Damian Priest wins here because he wasn't seen as, a strong world champion, fair or not fair. He is now considered a strong lead babyface on Raw thanks to this moment. And then a little bit of treachery from Finn Balor. We didn't talk about the fact that it was Finn. And I love the realism that they used in this. And even to us in attendance, it was apparent. Wrestlers shouldn't know what they can't see. And typically there's times that react to things like, how do, we all see a broadcast. Why don't they see a broadcast? And Damian Priest did not see how he was screwed until he sat there and watched it on the replay on the big screen. And that's when he lost his mind. And even more than CM Punk being distracted by a bracelet, the way that he was distracted by the second betrayal of the night in the Judgment Day was so legit. Watching like the opportunistic moment where, I have a brief moment, I'm going to lunge between the ropes outside the ring and get my hands on Finn Balor. That looked as real as it gets, even from my distant vantage point there. And it did end up leading to his downfall because Gunther, there was a great sequence at the end where, despite the interference, like Priest gets a leverage pin on Gunther, and it almost looked like that was it. And I had texted you before, like after 3 straight title changes, I thought, man, they're going to save this for his home, continent of Europe and bash at Berlin. I'm fine with that because we know Gunther is next. He's up. It's his time.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They swerved us with a couple of really great near falls there at the end, and then they went with the 4th title change of the night and 4 in a row. None of these major belts have moved since WrestleMania. Triple H is notorious now for booking these folks to hold titles for decent periods of time, and to move 4 all at once felt like a real shuffling of the deck of the latter half of 2024 for WWE.
Oh, let's that's a great shot.
Of the fact, man.
That's great.
This is Gunther up on the announce table afterwards. If anything, because of the Judgment Day implosion, it's almost easy to lose the fact that this was Gunther's shining moment. But here's a dude who also has been at it for a long time across 2 continents and has risen to the top title, or arguably one of the 2 top titles in the industry. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it is.
I popped for this one too. This one was not as like Drew McIntyre, where I'm the only one that was like on my feet. There were a lot of people that were wanting this Gunther victory in the stadium as well.
It was great. Now this.
I couldn't get to the main event without at least talking about the fact that I could not believe the moonsault that Jelly Roll hit on Austin Theory. No.
Although Theory, to his credit, Theory and that choke slam, man, that kid had such a jump and got so much air, because
Grayson Waller and Austin Theory actually deserve a little bit more than just always playing the role of buffoons. Those guys are great at that, but their athleticism leaps off the screen. And yeah, that dude basically choke slammed himself and made Jelly Roll look like $1 million.
Absolutely.
But that had to be a little bit of a come down. We needed something between what could have been the main event. Actually, several straight could have been the main events to the actual main event.
Yeah.
And it was this one. And as you can see, this is also a shot I wanted to get because, at first I thought I'm going to go to a big stadium and see one of the big production stages and stuff. And then I got there and realized, oh, yeah, we're in the era now where WWE sells so many tickets. They got rid of the big stage so they could sell more seats. So you see the smoke coming out there. That's where the entrance was. It was not, I could not really see it from where I was because there's no more big stage because they want to sell all those seats. It still looks amazing to see that many people in a place, though.
Okay, that's cool because I did not know where you were in relation to the it's almost like a snaking kind of like ramp and everything because spoilers, there were run-ins. If you haven't seen this yet, there were run-ins during this, and to watch the run-ins is actually hilarious because if the folks doing the run-ins didn't just appear ringside or come through the crowd, they had to run down this not ramp but this snaking runway.
You had to run the length a football field, basically.
And it looked exhausting.
It was, but then I tell you, the Cleveland crowd still, there was never a lull, even during the couple of matches that weren't to the level of most of the matches. No one was sitting on their hands. People didn't make long, everyone run to the bathroom at the same time or anything. They were invested for 4 straight hours, and there was a palpable buzz before this one. I will say that by this point, the crowd was obviously tired, but they were not out of it, and it was simmering because I think, if anything, if you could say bad about this match, is that everyone knew that this was not going to end until there was involvement from a bunch of other people. So no one was buying into the false finishes. And this was a little surprising. They started out, traditional wrestling collar and elbow hookup. I thought that they were just going to do like Drew and CM Punk and just go at each other, but that's not the way that they built this one. This was a big test for a young Solo Sikoa, a man in his 20s who is in a main event in front of 60,000 people wrestling solo at this time. No pun intended. And he acquitted himself well, like those headbutts in the corner and some things are, Samoan drops, obviously part of his repertoire, but those headbutts in the corner looked really good live. I had not seen him use that before. Everything he did made sense, and he looked good against a much more seasoned opponent.
Absolutely did.
But we all knew that you can't have a Bloodline Rules match without a bloodline. So there was, if anything, it built anticipation, but also maybe made the first part of this match a little more methodical, only because we knew that we were just waiting for everyone to get involved. And then everyone got involved. We get ourselves a crossroads here, and then we get everyone involved, and this is the best shot I got, even though it's a bit blurry, and this relates to the news item earlier. Yes, the Bloodline got involved. Jacob Fatu did Jacob Fatu things, which meant, like, I'm going to leap from the ring like an insane person through the table like 8 billion miles away and crush Cody Rhodes. But, Doug, it was, even from where I was, and I haven't seen the broadcast you have, it was almost immediate obvious to us at ringside that, wait a minute, something maybe happened there to Fatu.
So the only thing I wasn't sure because I was torn. I was like, is he really selling? Because first of all, I was like, wait a minute, where's Jacob? Where's Jacob? Is everybody like Danny in the Iron Fleet here? Did everybody forget about Jacob? What's going on here? Game of Thrones folks, you got that reference. Yeah. But Eventually Fatu shows up, and like you say, the Samoan werewolf does Samoan werewolf things. And then when he comes off this, crushes the table and everything, and immediately grabs his leg. And I'm like,
Yep.
is he selling? Because he is just, is he overselling? Because I'm thinking somebody's still got to come out, because I know we have Hikuleu, who is allegedly signed. We have Zilla, who is at least in Cleveland this weekend. So there are plenty of, Fatus and family members floating around. And, we saw Rock's mom earlier in the night, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And, somebody is still coming out.
And Fatu is reported that was seen later in the night in a boot. So no official word onto the extent of the injury. It would be a shame, though, if at the beginning of a bloodline civil war, if he is out for any extended period of time. This guy is just, I cannot have enough words for how special he is, and that aura comes across in person as well. He almost risks outshining everyone else. That's just how off the charts his whole presence is.
And I could totally see why they decided to set on him for a while, even after he was signed, because they needed to establish Solo first. And then I think they've also went above and beyond, and he has, with his loyalty to, Solo.
So as the enforcer.
And putting that over. Yeah, absolutely. And just pointing that over.
We would be remiss, since I said enforcer, to not point out that at the beginning of this match, the original enforcer, the one and only Arn Anderson, makes his first WWE appearance in quite some time by helping out, and giving a pep talk to Cody on his way to the ring. Cody's dog Pharaoh made his last appearance. Pharaoh. Apparently Pharaoh is not going to be on the road with Cody any longer as well. So we get the second dog chant of the night after Larry earlier in the evening. So good night for dogs, Braun Breaker, Larry, and Pharaoh. But there was so much that was going to happen in this. And as you can see, the Fatus and an Anoa'i family gets involved. And of course, that has to be countered with some Kevin Owens and some Randy Orton. And then, Doug, we knew it was coming, but then the biggest baby face in the history of professional wrestling that we all hated just 3 months ago.
Right. The OTC, Kevin. The OTC.
As soon as the music hit, the crowd lost its collective minds, and we all knew it was coming. But just because it's coming doesn't mean it's not great when you get it. Sometimes things happen the obvious way because they're just the right way for it to happen.
Right.
He comes, he does his Superman punch. He gives a look to Cody that basically says, yeah, I'm not doing this for you.
Uh-huh.
And it led to the moment, and that is Cody Rhodes retaining.
Yeah.
And still in people only remember the end. The match itself probably was not what the matches before it were. Actually, no, probably about it. It was not. But that ending was perfect. I mean, it was just perfect. And there's nothing you can say other than that's exactly perfect scripting on behalf of all the players involved.
It was, again, like you say, it was everything, perfect scripting. It was everything it also needed to be to get us to where we are. Because like with every other bloodline match that's been for 3 years now, it's not necessarily about everything that happens during the match. Most of the time it's after the match. Here we got like the end of the match, though, where, actually even a little bit after the match, where we're getting the nods to each other, the acknowledgement between, our current champion Homelander there and the OTC, the original tribal chief, as, made his return.
And it's going to be fun to watch play out, because we do have a bloodline civil war that is, who all gets involved. Doug, you mentioned several other members we have not seen yet. Is Fatu hurt? Legitimately? If so, how long will it be out? Is Rock going to get involved and make his presence felt in this at all? There's a lot they can do that is going to set up not only the latter half of 2024. I'd argue that this is the setup that's going to go at least through Mania of next year as well.
I can totally see that.
The question here is, and it was one that was asked of Cody Rhodes afterwards, is that in a moment that, should be a defining one for you at the end. And yes, it is. As you can see from this, the fans are nuts for Cody Rhodes, and you're the champion in the main event. But now there can only be one main a force on the brand, who is the face of the company, because that reaction Roman Reigns got means that there is at some point going to be that changing of the guard as well. Is it Cody? Is it Roman? Who's the top guy on WWE television? It was asked of Cody, and he said that, yeah, I mean, I had my eye on that. There can only be one top guy, and I've always wanted it to be me. But the reaction that Roman got as a face was undeniable. And then you and I have talked about this. It's amazing. WWE has gotten over the guy that some fans just could not wait to just go away. They were tired of him. It's too much. He always wins. We want something new. He's the most over guy in the company again.
Yeah, without even being on TV for 3 months. He got without being there. He became after 3 years of being a heel, he becomes the biggest babyface. And we were going back and forth about blowing the roof off the place if it had one. It would have if they had one. I cannot imagine the decibel level there live when that music hit.
It definitely was the biggest pop of the night. And probably second was CM Punk, quite honestly, and then Rhodes probably was third. So there's definitely if Cody wants some motivation, there is that. If that's the kind of thing that matters to you about like the reactions in the pecking order, regardless of who's scripted as your champion, that's something to dig into and dig deeper in yourself. And honestly, that kind of competition of like I'm just trying to outdo everything else is probably what pushed this pay-per-view into the realm that it got, in my opinion, of that there was so many plausible main events on this that everyone was trying to outdo everyone else, and therefore everyone got a moment to shine last night. It was a special night.
It was definitely a special night.
And that is SummerSlam 2024. Doug, let's hit a big finish. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Botch of the week.
You know what? I always like to go with the theme when we're covering our pay-per-views, premium live events. I'm going to do that tonight. And I'm sure there's stuff I could call out for a botch in AEW, maybe somewhere else. But this was such a excellent PLE. I am saying there's no botch that can't be, there's no botch for me this week. This was just I'm not going to call it perfect, but this is as close to a perfect PLE as I have seen in I don't even remember when. So I'm not going to tarnish, what we just saw with any botches from any wrestling promotions this week. I'm just stepping away from it.
Well, now you're making me look like the heel. Thanks. So I have mine all focused because I am still buzzing, to be perfectly honest, off of being there live. But if I had to come up with a botch and a nitpick, it was the logic behind a Dom taking the dive from Liv Morgan when he knows by the end of it he's going to be screwing over his girlfriend. Like, you could have made that an accidental spot of where he gets in the way or something like that, but he didn't really have a storyline reason for saving Rhea and taking that move and hurting himself with what was going to come later. But that is a small quibble in what was otherwise an excellent match.
Yeah, I mean, top to bottom, even Nia Jax, winning, not a Nia fan, just top to bottom, an excellent and amazing, a magical PLE. I, can't imagine what it was like to be there live.
Performance of the week, Doug. Well, I think we might be in lockstep on this one.
Performance of the week, I'm torn here for who to actually give the credit to for this, but I'm going to give it to the man who walked out. And performance of the week is our original tribal chief, or maybe that stands for our tribal chief, maybe not the original tribal chief but he's my tribal chief, Kevin, and he always has been. Roman Reigns is getting, I acknowledge him.
Same here. My performance of the week is the guy who came out and did like 3 minutes of actual work, but stole the night by in the parking lots, in the streets. My wife had heard that Roman Reigns was back, even though she was not there. She was just picking me up. It was that kind of like, Roman Reigns is back. He'd only been gone 3 months, and people were so happy to see him leave 3 months ago. He comes back, and people could not have enough of the tribal chief. And what he does from here is going to be very interesting television on WWE over the next few months to see just how much punishment is coming the new Bloodlines way. Roman Reigns, my performer of the week. Match of the week, I'm curious about too, because we might be on lockstep on this, but there are definitely some contenders last night that I could not argue if we weren't in agreement.
This is so hard, but just for some reasons, and we'll just leave it at that. I'm gonna call that McIntyre Punk really Rollins match is my match of the week. I love the flawed logic of this grizzled veteran being so distracted by this man he hates that the bracelet is what gets to him and causes him to lose at the end. I love that that logic and just the whole story, and I'm glad to see Punk lose.
In fairness to you here, I know I was kind of making fun of the fact that he lost over a bracelet, but even though I was eating it up live,
right?
I can sort of see the tit for tat logic of, okay, now we really are even, because Drew McIntyre has been the one on the losing end of all of this from CM Punk.
Right,
partially because he was so obsessed with CM Punk that it was to his own detriment that he was eyes off the actual prize. And this was a true turning of the tables. Just hearing you describe it that way is that, yeah, CM Punk should have known better, just like Drew should have known better up until now.
Yeah, you're so totally right. I didn't thought about like that. So it's kind of like Star Wars. It's in poetry. It rhymes. It starts here, it ends here, but it rhymes.
It was perfect. I was tempted, and I was torn. That match was so good. I was torn of that as my match of the week. I'm going with Damian Priest versus Gunther.
Yeah,
because of just in the ring action, that probably was the match of the night. But you're right. The overall, like, you could make an argument. It's 6-1, half a dozen another. You can't go wrong. To have both of those back to back on a premium live event. And I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I've seen so much live wrestling shows. I have never seen a world title change hands in front of me. That made me just pop, like the inner Mark in me just like got giddy over, like, I saw a world title change. This is awesome. And it was awesome. So that was my match of the week.
Sounds good to me. I can't argue with it. I mean, like you said, pick anyone, even if you're an Ajax fan, pick that one. And it has its reasons.
We didn't have much arguing at all, because Doug and I agreed on all of our finishes, and we got 6 of the 7 right of the matches. So Triple H, we are expecting that call.
Right.
We are at your service, sir.
I think we have earned the right to be the idiots in the back booking that crap.
And I think I have earned the right, Doug, to maybe go to bed, because, man, I am tired.
You have, sir. You have, sir. You need some rest. I need some dragons.
Folks, come back and join us next Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We're going to be talking about the top 10 finishing maneuvers in wrestling history. So we want to have a discussion with you and see what you think. For now, if you haven't seen SummerSlam, go watch it.
Go watch it. What are you doing watching us? Go watch it.
Go watch it.
Top to bottom. Good night, everybody.